And now, part two of This Week in Business Continuity with James Green. This is another personal story.
Yeah,
Of
you
a
have a
recent event.
story for me.
I do.
So what do you got, Alex?
Well, I looked at it as, if you see something, say something and do
Yes.
something, quick response. And I had that the other day. There's a park not far from my house. There's baseball fields there, football fields, soccer fields, some hiking trails, volleyball courts. It's a really big park. And the whole thing is surrounded by a hill, big hills with lots of trees on them. It surrounds it. So I was walking the dog on some of these trails, and it was a fluke thing. I just happened to look over to my right. I was heading towards my car with the dog. We were finished and saw these young people, either 18, 19, 20-ish or so, running down a hill, one of the hills. And I just went, oh, okay, well, but I didn't pull my eyes away. I just watched them run down the hill and saw behind them up in the trees suddenly this big puff of smoke. And I stopped and went, oh, what's going on over there? And the three jumped in the car. There was a parking lot there, jumped in the car and took off. I saw the smoke and instantly I went, oh my God, they've done something. They've started a fire or something. Pulled out my phone and was able to get two pictures of the car, but far away, because as they drove away, wouldn't you know it, one of these big fences around one of the football fields was blocking out my view. So I had to wait. But I did get two pictures of them. And I still kept seeing all this smoke. I'm going, what's going on? LG, I took my dog, let's go see what's happening. And very quickly walked up with my phone at the ready and went up to the top of the hill. Sure enough, they had started a fire. And it was all dry. And if it had caught, luckily it was, I shouldn't even say lucky, but it was a fallen log they had started rather than a standing tree. If it had caught one of the standing trees, poof, this whole thing would have gone. But as soon as I saw the fire, and it was growing as I was standing there having a look, called 911 right off the bat, talked to the police. Police were there, gave them the photos that I had taken. Fire pulled up, put out the fire. They said it was actually the second time in 3 days, I think it was 3 days, that they've been there for the same thing. So maybe the same people did it. I don't know. But I looked back at the experience going, what if I just kind of went, not my business, and walked away? What would have happened? Because in those trees are, what do you call them? A frisbee. I don't even know what their names are, but it's a frisbee golf course.
Frisbee golf. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know what you call the things you throw the frisbees in, but there are people that and pets and everybody that walk through those trees. Well, what would have happened if there a fire caught and somebody was in there? Got caught by it or something. And right across the street are houses. So I looked at it and went, it really is a case. If you see something, say something, act on it, and if something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't. So I wanted to share that, because if I had just said, it's not my business, I don't want to get involved.
Not my problem.
I would have hated to have seen what was happening, because even the fire guy said, yeah, that was spreading. We could see it spreading just as we were walking up to it. He goes, it would have a few more minutes. It probably would have been at that one tree. And the tree was kind of a dead tree, so dry as a bone. And
so
it would have gone off and just spread like crazy. So,
yeah.
So that was an interesting experience.
Well, you were at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I was, and I'm surprised, but I'm going to be keeping my eyes open in that one spot now for the next time I go. So our next one, excuse me, is the big report.
A big one. We've got a big one. So the BCI recently released their continuity and resilience report for 2022. I think it's 10,000 pages.
Feels like it.
It feels like it. There's a lot. I really struggled with this report. There's a lot I'm gonna stop with that. I really struggled with this report. Some of the, I guess, collective, not the findings, but the collective thoughts of our peers. So I don't know where you want to start here. I've got all kinds of notes. I know you do too. Maybe I'll start with this. I thought this was interesting that this was based on survey respondents, the top 5 attributes of a BC resilience manager and the bottom 5 attributes of a BC manager. So the top 5: communicator, relationship builder, good planner, problem solver, collaborator.
Sounds like soft skills to me, don't they?
I was going to say all soft skills, all that contribute to strategic work. And we're seeing a lot of that, you know, how do I get a seat at the table, or I'm not relevant, but it's usually driven by these, you lack soft skills, you lack these strategic vision. Here's the bottom 5, and 2 of them make me laugh, so I'll save those for the end. The bottom 5 attributes of a BC resilience manager: first, they give orders. I think that's pretty obvious because most of the people we work with don't report to us. They're controlling, a high level of academic qualification, which I was very happy to see. You and I have had many discussions over the last 2 years that academic qualifications do not lead directly to being a strong continuity or resilience leader. And then the last 2 attributes were risk adverse and risk taking. So I think some confusion from our colleagues there. I've never seen those 2 words next to each other as both negative. Usually it's one or the other. So
yeah, I've got a chuckle at that one too, going, well, that doesn't make sense. We're in the business of risk. I don't get that. Where's that coming from? You know, and it's opposite ends of the spectrum too at the same time.
Yeah. So I think a big split in our profession of people think we take too much risk, and the equal number of people think we should take more risk. I'm of the more risk faculty, but I'm in the minority there, certainly.
Well, I agree with you on that too. The other thing that I first want to say is stop with these big reports. People don't have time to read them. I find it interesting that some of these organizations say that, you know, plans need to be short and concise and to the point, and then they put out a report that's really long. And if people don't have the time to review or exercise or whatever these small plans, well, then why deliver something that's large? So, you know, I don't have time for that. So I thought that was rather interesting, you know, to see a 70-page or near 70-page report. You know, it kind of went against some of the things that are being said. Like, okay, doesn't make sense. I'm not downplaying the value of the report, because there is some good information in there. So, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. It's just contradiction. You're saying one thing but delivering something else. So, the other thing is, I wasn't quite sure what they meant by the term appreciation. There were a couple of surveys, you know, that had to deal with our you know, the appreciation of business continuity. Well, what does that mean? You know, are you using that word in the place of awareness or something? You know, I appreciate good drummers and good guitarists, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go buy a death metal record. You know, so, you know, how the word appreciation, that kind of was a gray area for me. I didn't quite understand what it meant. And I did find, your turn. You go for one this time.
No, I was going to say, I took that question to mean, do you as a BC resilience practitioner feel appreciated because of the work you do at your organization? So maybe that was just my point of view. Like, do you feel you're valuable to your organization?
Okay. Yeah, it could have been just the way I read it, because I did go through it quickly.
Yeah, that's mine. If someone in your audience has a different version, I'd love to hear that. To go back to So these top 5 attributes: communicator, relationship builder, good planner, problem solver, collaborator. You said soft skills. I said strategic. But then, that was in the summary up top. But then what really stuck out to me was almost 75% of respondents said that the BIA will have more importance, or much more importance, in the next 5 years as an aspect of their job. And I felt that was really incongruent to those 5 top attributes. I'm not saying the BIAs aren't important or valuable, but I'm confused repeatedly where BC practitioners spend the bulk of their time on BIAs, and then they say they're not appreciated or considered valuable by management. And it certainly doesn't. I don't know how BIA fits into collaborator, relationship builder. I still think there's this huge dichotomy between what we say we want to be and what we spend our time doing. It's, again, I don't want people to think I'm anti BIA, but I'm not an always never kind of guy. I was with a client last week and I, like, hey, what do you guys tell me about your program? What do you do? They said, we did a BIA one time. I said, okay, what happened? They're like, it was a huge heavy lift. And before the BIA, management said, here's our critical functions. And we spent all this time and energy doing a BIA. And we came back to management and said, you're right. Those are our critical functions. You're not going to be seen as strategic or valuable or appreciated if you just spend a ton of your company's time and money doing a BIA to answer a question they already had an answer. That's the type of situation where I'm anti-BIA. Like, you already know the answer. Don't do this. But I really thought it was interesting. 75% of respondents said more important or much more important. So 75% of our peers are going to make the BIA even more a core of what they plan to do. And I worry about that because, let me put it this way. If you are watching this podcast or online or whatever, and you've been promoted because your boss said, your BIAs are just freaking amazing, we're promoting you. I want to hear from you, because I think there's a disconnect between good tactical work, which is valuable, and career progression. That's what I'm really struggling with. And that was one of the things in this report that I was like, we're gonna do more BIAs. I think I'm really worried that some people are doubling down on the wrong path after the last 3 years, because who had pandemic in their BIAs, or who had pandemic as input or output of any part of a BIA?
Who even pulled out their BIA?
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah,
nobody.
I think there's a couple of reasons for that response, and there's not a connection, because one of the things that caught my attention is that nearly half of the respondents were European focused, excuse me, and from the financial industry.
Yeah.
And recently they've had some EU regulations that have been launched, DORA, Digital Operational Resilience Act. I know I've spoken on the show. I think Luke Bird actually did a show on that. Hey, Luke, if you're out there watching us on TV again from the living room,
your family room, yeah,
yeah. So I think that has something to do with it, because when it comes to those regulations, what's a part of that regulation? Thou must have a BIA. And I totally get that. I've worked in financial services, and I worked in a financial services company. And if I would have said, hey, we're not doing BIAs, they would have been like, cool, we're going to fail this audit. You're fired. So I'm not saying in a regulatory environment to ignore regulations, but I can share with you, I outsourced that function of my job because I recognized management, this is not going to move the needle for the visibility of my program and my personal career track. So I
I had money to either buy a software tool or to outsource my BIA. I could do one or the other. Nobody cared. It was my budget. It wasn't a huge budget. I chose to outsource my BIAs, and I could spend all my time working on what was perceived as more important to management. So I still did what I needed to regulatory wise, but I think if you're just leaning into the compliance aspect of our job, you're really missing opportunities to be strategic, and I think you're missing opportunities to advance your career.
Yeah, there was another comment. I wish I had written some of these things down in full, and rather than my scribbles that I'm having difficulty reading here. But there seemed at one point there was a comment about focus and support on the discipline. And when I read that, I was going, yeah, but that's where all that BIA and risk assessment and all that other stuff comes in. Where's showing the value of this stuff? Correct. And I didn't find that comment coming after it. And I thought that was an opportunity to right there show the value of business continuity, the value of us, the value of what we can do, rather than, hey, look at this discipline, this life cycle, and all these different aspects of this life cycle. And that's where I thought that it was kind of looking at all this information, which is still good because we all know it.
Yes.
Hopefully we all know it because we need it to be able to be agile and go to clients and within our own companies to be able to do this stuff. You have to know it.
Correct.
But if that's our only focus, well, then we're getting people just to look at that. We're not getting people to look at the value that it offers. And that caught my attention in there too.
And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. A lot of people think that I don't see any value in the life cycle of, risk assessments, BIAs, plans, test, exercise, after action. I see tremendous value. Where I get frustrated is, to your point, I don't want our colleagues to that be 100% of their time. That shouldn't be all that you do. I want us to be more. Even the survey said, we're seeing a trend towards our profession being more strategic. It bumped up 3 points. The life cycle of our profession is the heart of what we do. But if you want to be strategic, you've got to wrap things around that.
Yeah.
So, but I just, the BIA really, really jumped out at me because I do not see the BIA as strategic. And if the BIA is strategic at your organization, share that with me. I want to be educated. There are times I worked with a client that they acquired another company and they knew what they got, like revenue wise, asset, liability. They're like, we don't know what's critical. And we did a BIA. That's the most rewarding BIA I've ever done because I felt like we actually brought information back. Like, here's all this stuff you had no idea. I love doing work like that, but compliance work and like my organization last week where they're like, well, we brought back to management the 5 things they already brought to us. That's career limiting right there. So,
yeah. And I've had that happen. The opposite happened years ago. I did BIAs for a government agency, and their directive was from the ministry, you have to go do a BIA. So we did a BIA. Came back. We had our priorities. We had everything that they told us we had to have in a nice, pretty chart. And document. Before it went anywhere, I showed it to the CFO. And he looked at it and the top section, let's say the highest of the highest priorities, the mission critical stuff. He looked at it and said, that's embarrassing. And my face probably went red and I'm like, oh, what? I've been doing this for years. I didn't do it wrong. Why? And he said, all the top priorities that his level has, the C-suite and the boardroom, don't align with what the rest of the organization wants. And that was years ago. That was about 15 years ago, at least. And ever since then, that's when I changed my view on the BIA, saying, well, he already had the answer then.
Correct.
He already knew what the priorities were. Why did I go through this whole exercise? I wasted his money. Sure, I got paid. Yeah, that's great, wonderful. But I wasted his time and money. and I wasn't showing value to bring it back to him. And we had to take all that information back and have a whole bunch of new meetings to align with what he and his colleagues thought were priorities or expected to be priorities. This is what they expected. And that's when my view on the BIA started changing. So
there was another topic that stuck out to me around work from home, which makes sense given all that we've done the last 3 years. And here I'm challenging our profession right now. You're all liars. So 40% of respondents said, we ensure all home workers are provided a plan in the case of an outage. There's no way. Is the plan just to come back to the office? That was the one stat that jumped out to me that said 4 out of 10 of us have work from home contingency plans in the event of a power outage. I mean, I'll be honest, if my power's out at my house, I'm a small business owner, I'm in our space, right? I have a couple of backup batteries, I have a MiFi hotspot, and then at some point, it's going dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about you or what that was the stat to me. I'm like, that stat's too high.
That was another point I had here too, going, well, what plan is that? I haven't heard of anybody receiving anything. No one I know, and I know a lot of people work from home, they've never received anything. So what is the plan? And I think you're right. The plan is, well, come back to the office.
Yep.
Well, that's not much of a plan, especially if people are working from home and have partners and children and pets. Well, they're not going to, power's out. Too bad, dear. Too bad, kids. See ya. And off they go. No.
Well, that's not like happen. We're seeing with Ian right now. If you're in Fort Myers and somehow you are okay at your house and your business is okay, they're both without power right now. So you can go either one. That cell phone dies. And I saw that with Ian. Certain friends would ping me every 6 hours. And then at some point, nothing, because their stuff died. So I would, we need to think more as a profession. The fallback plan was always work from home if the office burned down. But now we're permanently there. You need a new plan. And 40%, I love you guys. Some of you are lying.
And the plan cannot be go back to the office because some of these offices are reducing their footprint.
Yeah. Where are you going to sit?
So if the plan is to bring everybody back, now where are they going?
Where are you going to sit? 3 to a desk? Yeah.
So, that was an interesting one because I was kind of curious. Well, what plan? My home is down. The neighborhood, there's a big fire, and you've got a plan for me to do something other than my own safety or taking care of other people in my home that I have here. Really? What? It seemed kind of a little bit. I know it's a tricky, and I'm not saying it's an easy thing to answer. No, it's not.
It's a mess. But if you're watching right now and you have a great plan for work from home employees, share it with us. And if you're comfortable sharing it, we want to share it with the profession, because I think that's one of the biggest tactical holes, Alex, that we have as a profession right now. Mm-hmm. What do I do with all these new work from home employees when there's something that affects them at home? Not 1 or 2, but
send us your plan or an email about it. We'll talk about it, or maybe we'll have you as a guest shot and come on and talk here as well, because that is a subject that needs to be talked about, because we don't know enough about it yet, and there are so many. Even people working at home are going to turn around and say, "I'm at home. You can't tell me what to do here."
Correct.
Regardless of what you do. That's what they're going to say. You can't tell me what to do when I'm in my own place. So there's a big gray area here but understanding where corporations can give directions, where they have to stop, but where does some of my own personal responsibility kick in? What do I need to do to help the organization out? What does the organization do to help me out? And so there's a lot of back and forth there, and it's not an easy thing to nail down.
It's not.
Anything else that jump out in that report?
No, I think we'll end there in
Okay.
the sake of time for me.
Okay. I'd say, well, we forgot for a month or two, but any certain books you're reading certain things we should know about?
Nothing is. I'm reading a book right now, and I don't like it, so I'm not going to say the title.
Uh-oh. It's not the same one I've got in front of me, I hope.
No, I don't think so. I don't want to give negative reviews, but the book I have now, I'm not happy about. So we'll just leave it at that. And hopefully I'll have something more interesting for you next time. How about yourself?
Well, I just finished a thriller by Matthew Riley this morning. Just finished that. This one's going to look familiar to you because you mentioned it last month.
I did, yeah.
And I happened to be on Amazon the very next day, and this popped up as a recommendation. I went, hey, that's the one.
That's the book. Yeah.
So I just got this, so I'm going to read that. And it's Worth the Risk by Kristen Lee.
Kristen Lee, yeah.
And the other one, because I always like personal growth as well.
Of course.
By Anthony DeMello. It's called Awareness.
Oh, nice.
So the perils and opportunities of reality. So there's a lot of
very nice
self-growth in this one. So that's what I'm reading. And finally, our Continuity and Resilience Today live broadcast.
We have a big month in November. So we are going to be broadcasting live at Continuity and Resilience Today in Toronto over 2 days. I'm very excited to work with the attendees and speak with the sponsors and speak with our advertisers and test out some new equipment that Alex and I have. We hope you guys can join us along for the ride. It's exciting and nerve-wracking all at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a good time. We're going to a Toronto Maple Leafs game, you and I, which will be exciting. And then before that, you and I will both be at BCI World in London. So look for maybe some video or some snippets of things Alex and I are going to try to do while we are in London. I'm going to be in London on Halloween. I don't know. I'm a huge Halloween guy. I don't know how I feel about, I know in the US it's ridiculously big. So I can't make any promises what's going to happen. Do I just trick or treat at my hotel, or how's this? I think you can it's the one day of the year you can hand candy to people where it's not creepy. So I'm excited. I've never been outside of the US on Halloween. Every other holiday I have. So I look forward to see, if there's any, like people even pay attention, but yeah.
I believe after talking with cousins and family, that North American Halloween is growing over there.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid in England, that was not the thing. It was different. Yeah. It really was looked at as a pagan festival kind of thing. So, but that's now changing. So, because I will be in Droitwich Spa on Halloween night. So I will have little cousins who will possibly trick-or-treating. So if I can, I will tag along with them. So
fun, very fun.
So we've come to the end of our show for another month. And like you just said, we're going to be spending a lot of time together in the next couple of weeks into November.
Multi-country tour.
Yeah, exactly. So. We really are following each other everywhere now. So James, thanks very much. I really appreciate spending time with you again, chatting about all kinds of things. And, feel free, anyone with hate mail, especially about our 2 reports, send them to James. That's okay. Otherwise, thanks, James, again. And everybody watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.